Our next storyteller, Jennie learns a new vocabulary in Togo that serves her well today. Please welcome Jennie Moylan with her powerful story, I Stood Up.
So, hi, I'm Jennie Moylan. I'm from Davis, California. So for those of you from the Bay Area, that's a little college town just north of here. And we have a lot of bicycles. We have a lot of bike theft. I've had a lot of bikes stolen, more than I can count. By which I don't mean more than I can count. Like I could make a list, but most of the time I just remember that first one and the most recent one. And in the middle, it all kind of runs together. Do you have things like that where you don't really count? Anyway, you recover, you go on. So I had a bicycle when I served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Togo, West Africa. And I would ride my bike the 18K from my little village to the town where I did my shopping. And I would arrive hungry. And the first thing that I would get would be like a little pretzel peanut stick or maybe a beignet fresh out of the hot oil. Just, freshly fried, way too close to everybody's shins with toddlers scrambling around. Or I might get like a handful of peanuts wrapped in somebody's homework, and it was market day, so everybody looked good. They would be wearing brightly colored clothes and matching outfits and their hair done just right. But there were some people in town that couldn't take care of themselves, that just weren't all there, and their clothes were the color of the red dirt road, and their hair was all matted. There was one guy who was kind of an anomaly. He was crazy. He talked to himself, but he was clean. He had a belt, and his hair was done right, and his clothes were ironed. So in among all these people, I set out to do my shopping, so I got my little pile of tomatoes for 25 francs, and I got a big fat smoked fish to take back to the family that I lived with. And I didn't have a refrigerator, so no cheese, no mayonnaise, no chocolate. I got a big bag of oranges from this woman with scoliosis. She was so tiny, but she always threw in an extra with a little smile and a wink. And I had finished my shopping. I was on the way to pick up my mail, which I got at the buvette at this little shop, and it was kept in a basket under the counter. So they had some system where they shuttled the mail up and down the country. So on my way there, and I saw somebody had pineapples laid out on a blanket. So I was kind of bending over, talking to the woman and looking at the pineapples when he did what Donald Trump brags about doing to women. I mean, just from the front of my pubic bone, through my crotch, over my ass, up my back. And I stood up. And I felt the back of my skirt. And as my hand came away, I thought, mayonnaise, where did he? Oh, God. Not mayonnaise. So I turned around and I started kicking him and kicking him and kicking him and chasing him and kicking him until I lost him in the crowd. So I just continued on. Went and I got my mail, and I had the thought that probably I should tell somebody. So I wrote, I still remember my handwriting, these tiny little letters. I might have had some little scrap of paper, like the scrap that my peanuts came in. And I wrote my note, and I put it in the basket, and I sent it down country. To tell the truth, I thought I was going to be in trouble. I had just attacked a mentally disabled man, and I wanted them to hear about it from me first. So I go back to my village, and sure enough, a few days later, a great big white Peace Corps van shows up to collect me and take me down to the Capitol. And the first person they had me talk to was our nurse, Sheila Waterman. And she asked me to tell her what happened, and I told her. And she asked me to tell her again. And she listened and listened and listened. And she believed me. And she gave me vocabulary. She said, "You were sexually assaulted." I had been sexually assaulted many times before I knew the word for it. In my life, I've been sexually assaulted more times than I can count, more times than I do count, in a way that's like the bicycles and totally not like the bicycles in a way that breaks my heart. She also gave me the word schizophrenic. So because this man was who he was, he continued to be part of the town where I had to go to get food. I was always literally looking over my shoulder for him. When I heard our now president's recorded comments, "Grab them by the pussy," I knew I had to tell this story. These two men, so different in the material realities of their life, so different in their ability to take accountability, both find themselves taking out their violence and their confusion on women's bodies, on my body. They say that when you are truly heard, it's so close to love that most people can't tell the difference. And so I say, listening trumps hate.